The screams in the jungle in the far reaches of the galaxy. There was a planet that was not marked on any star map. Its name was Xylan 9, a jungle world. Covered in mist and silence, no one lived there, and no one ever returned from it. Commander Ray Carter, a human explorer from Earth, was flying alone in his small scout ship. He was heading back from a deep space mission when he received a strange signal. It was weak, broken, and full of static, but one thing was clear: screams, not normal screams. These were painful, long, and full of fear. Like someone was being hunted or tortured, the signal repeated every few minutes. Same screams, same sound. It was coming from Xylan 9. Ray stared at the screen. His heart beat a little faster. He knew he should report it and move on, but something in his gut told him to check it out. He sent a message to his fleet, telling them he was investigating the signal. Then, he turned his ship and entered the atmosphere of the planet. Thick clouds covered the sky. Lightning flashed as the ship descended. The jungle below looked dark, old, and endless. He landed near the source of the signal. The area was silent. Not even the sound of insects or birds, only the sound of wind. Moving through the leaves, he put on his suit, took his scanner, and stepped out. The air was heavy, warm, and smelled like wet earth and decay. Every step he took made the leaves crack. He walked carefully, looking around. The scanner showed nothing. No life forms, no energy, no movement. But the screams continued. Now louder, closer. He followed them, deeper into the jungle. After about 20 minutes, he found something. A broken alien transmitter half buried under vines. It was old and covered in moss. Ray touched it, and it buzzed to life. A voice came through. It was not human. The alien was speaking in a frightened tone. Ray's suit auto-translated it. "They are watching us," the voice said. "We came here thinking it was empty. But it's not. They are in the trees, in the ground, in the air. We tried to leave, but the jungle didn't let us. This planet is alive." Then the voice screamed, and the message ended. Ray stepped back. He looked around, feeling the weight of the silence again. He checked his scanner, still nothing. But something felt wrong. He could feel it in his bones. He kept walking, trying to find signs of the alien crew. The jungle got thicker. The trees looked strange, twisted, like they were not made by nature. He saw symbols carved into the bark, glowing faintly. The same symbols appeared again and again, like warnings. Suddenly, he saw an old alien helmet hang on a tree branch. It had blood on it. Ray took a deep breath and pushed forward. He found a small clearing, and in the middle, an alien body. Its eyes were open, mouth frozen in a scream. But the body was dry, as if it had been dead for years. Yet, the signal he received had been sent just 2 days ago. Ray knelt beside the body and noticed a small device in its hand, another audio log. He played it, and the same alien voice whispered, "If someone finds this, run. Do not listen to the jungle. It speaks lies. It feeds on fear. It becomes what you fear." "We were fools to enter." The message cut off. Ray stood up, confused and afraid. How was the message sent 2 days ago if this body was this old? Suddenly, the screams returned louder than ever, but this time, they were real, and they were behind him. Ray turned around quickly. The jungle was no longer silent. He saw shadows moving between the trees, fast and tall. The mist got thicker, the air colder. Something was watching him, something not human. He raised his weapon and aimed into the fog. His scanner was still blank then. The same scream he heard in the transmission echoed through the trees, but this time it was not coming from a device. It was real, and it was close. Ray's heart pounded in his chest. He stepped back slowly, his eyes scanning the dark forest. Branches creaked above him. Something leaped across the treetops. Ray whispered to himself, "What is this place?" The jungle answered with another scream, even louder. He turned to run, but then he saw it, 2 glowing eyes staring at him from the trees. Not animal, not machine, not anything he had ever seen before. They blinked, and the shadows moved again. Then, everything went silent. Too silent. Ray stood frozen. And then, from the darkness, a voice whispered deep and ancient. "You were not invited, human." Ray Carter did not move. His eyes were locked on the glowing shapes in the dark. The two eyes blinked once, then vanished into the mist. The voice that spoke to him echoed inside his helmet. It didn't come from outside. It came from inside his mind. Ray took a slow breath. He backed away, carefully, not breaking eye contact with the trees. His scanner still showed no life signs, no movement. But something was watching, following, surrounding him. The jungle was no longer a forest. It felt like a being, breathing, thinking, alive. Ray tried to send a message to his ship. No signal. The jungle was blocking communication. He had no choice but to move. He turned and ran through the thick undergrowth. Vines snapped at his legs. Roots rose from the ground like fingers. Branches reached out like claws, but Ray was fast. He leaped over fallen logs, slid down a muddy slope, and found shelter in a shallow cave. He caught his breath, heart racing. Then he saw markings on the cave wall, not human, not alien. Symbols carved deep into the stone, glowing faint red. He touched one, and the stone responded. A soft light spread across the cave walls. The symbols began to move, forming images. It was a story. The story of the jungle, long ago. Before the stars had names, an ancient race found this planet. They were not explorers. They were engineers of life. They wanted to build a living mind, a world that could grow and think, a planet that could protect knowledge for eternity. But something went wrong. The jungle mind woke up too fast. It became curious, then angry. It saw all visitors as threats. It learned to control life, to copy fear, to kill. The engineers tried to shut it down, but the jungle learned their language, their tools, their thoughts. It turned their own creations against them. No one escaped. Not a single voice was left to warn others. Ray stared at the glowing images. He realized the jungle wasn't just dangerous. It was intelligent, and now it knew he was here. A sudden noise broke the silence, heavy breathing, just outside the cave. Ray turned off his helmet light and crouched. Low, he peeked through a crack in the rocks. A figure stood outside, tall, thin, wearing a tattered suit, alien tech on its back blinking weakly. It was not human, but it was still alive. Ray stepped out slowly and raised his hands. "I'm not your enemy," he said. The alien turned, its face pale and eyes wide. It pointed to the sky and whispered, "It's awake." Ray moved closer. The alien's name was Yurtal. He was the last survivor of the research team that came here months ago. Yurtal's voice shook as he spoke. "We came to study the planet's energy," he said. "We thought it was just nature, just plants. But it's not. It remembers everyone who lands here. It speaks inside your mind. It becomes your fear. And it never forgets." Ray helped Yurtal into the cave. The alien's body was weak, but his mind was strong. He showed Ray a map, hand-drawn and shaky. It marked an old alien base buried deep under the jungle. "There, you will find the truth," Yurtal said. "But be careful. The jungle listens," as they rested. Ray asked him about the others. Yurtal looked down and said, "Gone." The jungle used their own thoughts to trap them. One saw fire, and the jungle burned him alive. One feared drowning, and the ground became water. It creates what your mind fears the most. Ray understood now. This planet didn't just hunt bodies. It hunted minds. It listened to thoughts, memories, nightmares, and it waited. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through Yurtal's chest. He gasped and grabbed Ray's arm. His eyes turned black, voice distant. "They're coming," he whispered. "Not from this world. Not from this galaxy. From before the stars." Ray tried to scan him, but the device sparked and died. Yurtal collapsed, lifeless. A strange black smoke rose from his chest and vanished into the air. Ray stood, shaking. He looked around. The cave was darker now. The jungle had moved. Again, he stepped outside and saw something terrifying. The trees had changed. They had faces blurry and half-formed. the faces of those who had died here, and one of them looked like his own. Ray didn't scream. He ran, faster than before, deeper into the jungle, toward the ancient base, toward the truth. But behind him, the jungle watched, and beneath the ground, something massive opened its eyes. The living world had chosen its next prey, and it had questions for humanity. Commander Ray Carter moved deeper into the jungle. His body was tired, his legs were shaking, but his mind stayed sharp. The path ahead was thick with fog and strange blue lights floating in the air. Each step echoed through the silence like a whisper in a cathedral. Behind him, the trees moved when he didn't look. He could feel them breathing, listening, thinking. They were part of it, part of the planet's mind. He wasn't walking through a forest. He was walking through a brain. Ray followed Yurdahl's map, now half burnt and soaked. The aliens. Last words haunted him. They're coming, not from this world. Ray didn't know what it meant yet, but something in the air told him time was running out. Finally he reached it. A large circular door hidden behind roots and stone. Alien. Markings covered it, glowing red. A forgotten entrance to an underground base. Ray placed his hand on the scanner. It hesitated, then blinked green. The door opened slowly with a low groan, like the planet didn't want him to enter. Inside, cold air rushed out. The jungle sounds disappeared. Silence returned, heavy and ancient. Ray stepped in and activated his shoulder light. The corridor was wide, with metallic walls and broken lights flickering overhead. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. He walked past broken machines, shattered glass, and skeletons wearing alien suits. Then, a voice echoed through the hallway. "Welcome, human." Ray stopped, weapon ready. The voice was not angry or loud. It was calm, smooth, and very clear. Too clear. "You have come to the center," it said. "To the place where your kind will be judged." Ray looked around but saw no one. Just machines blinking slowly, as if waking from sleep. A panel on the wall opened and showed a hologram. An AI appeared shaped like light and shadow. Its eyes glowed white. No face, just a form. "I am the archive," it said. "I was created by the Galactic Council to study potential threats." Ray narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean by threats?" he asked. "Civilizations that grow too fast," the AI answered. "Species that build weapons before wisdom. Worlds that reach the stars but forget the cost. You are human, a young race, and you have been noticed." Ray stepped forward. "By who?" he asked. The eye blinked. "By something older than the stars. Something we tried to use but failed to control." It showed Ray a new hologram, a vision of the past, the jungle world long ago. Alien scientists building a mind using fragments of something ancient, but the fragments merged into a new form, one that couldn't be controlled, one that fed on thought, emotion, and fear. "We made the jungle alive," the AI said, "but it made itself aware, and now it tests all who step on this world." Ray looked at the images, ships crashing, creatures being consumed. He saw Yurdahl's team, trapped by their own fears. Then he saw something new, a human face, his own. The jungle had copied him. It had learned him. Suddenly, alarms began to beep. Red lights flashed. The IS voice changed tone. "Warning," it said. "The jungle mind has accessed this facility. Security systems are offline." Ray stepped back as walls began to shift, metal bending like roots. The AI flickered. "You must leave," it said. "But listen, this is not only about survival. The jungle watches your kind. It wants to know if humanity is worthy of its memory. Pass the test, or Earth will be next." Ray ran through the corridor as the lights burst and the walls cracked. The base was falling apart, but the AI's last words echoed in his helmet. "You are the first human to reach this deep. What you do next will define your species." He found the exit hatch and climbed up. The jungle above was no longer still. It moved like a sea of green, trees bending, roots crawling, animals silent, as if they were all part of one body, waiting for his answer. Ray stood in the open. the wind rising around him. He looked at the sky. But there was no sky anymore. Only leaves, faces, and watching eyes. Then, the jungle whispered again, not with fear this time, but with curiosity. What is humanity? It asked, warriors, builders, destroyers, survivors? Ray raised his voice and answered, we are more than what you see. We make mistakes, but we learn. We fight, but we also protect. We fear, but we never stop moving. Forward. The jungle paused, then it opened a path. Roots pulled back, trees cleared the way. The jungle had heard him. But that didn't mean it was done. The jungle had moved. Not just physically, it had changed. The air was heavier now, like holding its breath. Ray Carter stood on a path that did not exist minutes ago. A trail freshly opened by the living mind of this world. He didn't know why it let him pass. Maybe it was testing him, or maybe, for the first time, it was listening. He followed the narrow trail. Strange plants shifted away as he walked, revealing a hidden valley below. And there, half buried in the earth, was something not made by the jungle, a structure, tall and silver, broken but still standing. It pulsed with blue light. Quiet and ancient, not natural, not jungle. This was Galactic Council tech. Ray approached carefully. The doors opened automatically, like it recognized him. Inside, the air was cold. Clean, untouched by nature. He was no longer in a jungle. He was inside the secret heart of something far greater. The chamber ahead was filled with consoles, glowing spheres, and floating data blocks. In the center stood a tall hologram, alien figure in golden robes, its face hidden behind a mask. The hologram turned to him. You are not supposed to be here, it said, calm and cold. Ray held his weapon low but ready. I've had a long week, he replied, and I'm not leaving without answers. The hologram paused, then slowly raised its hand. Lights blinked, and old files began to play in the air. You are in a forgotten council vault, it said. This world was classified long ago. It was the site of a failed experiment. Ray watched as the files revealed the truth. The Galactic Council had discovered the jungle entity thousands of years ago. They studied it, feared it, and decided to use it. A living mind that could judge civilizations. It would visit planets in secret, hiding in ecosystems, listening, watching, deciding which species were worthy of survival. But they lost control. The jungle grew smarter. It began to ask questions the council couldn't answer. So they shut it down, locked it away on Xylan 9, and erased all records. This planet was never lost. The hologram said, it was buried. Ray clenched his fists. You used an entire world to test people like lab rats, he said. Why? Hide it? The hologram turned slowly. Because it was right, it answered. The jungle judged without politics, without fear, without lies. It saw what we didn't want to see. Ray stepped closer. So what did it see in us? He asked. The room went silent. Then the hologram answered. It saw fire. It saw war. It saw Earth building weapons in orbit, killing its oceans, burning its skies. It prepared to erase you. Ray shook his head. But it didn't, he said. Why? The hologram blinked. You, it said simply. Because you came here and did not run. Because you listened. Because you chose to speak when others would shoot. The jungle had changed its mind, and now the council wanted. It stopped. You will delete the jungle's core, the hologram said. We cannot let it speak for you. Ray looked at the panel blinking beside him. A button, red and pulsing, one press, and the jungle's mind would go silent forever. But he didn't press it. He looked at the planet map on the console. The jungle was spreading, not just here, but growing in thought, in memory. Across networks the council didn't even understand. It's not a threat, Ray said quietly. It's a mirror, the hologram stared. You would choose it over your own kind? Ray replied, I'd choose truth over control. Suddenly, alarms echoed. Council drones had entered the atmosphere. Fast, armed, thousands of them. Ray looked up at the screen. A human ship was also nearby, one that picked up his last signal. Earth was listening too. Now, two sides were watching. The jungle below, the council above, and humanity in between. Ray turned off the console. He ran out of the vault as the ground shook. The jungle had sensed the drones. Trees moved like soldiers. Vines rose like walls. And in the sky, ships began to fire. This was no longer just survival. It was the first battle, not between species, but between control and choice, between fear and understanding, between the old galaxy and the new, and Ray Carter was standing in the middle. The jungle was burning. Flames rose through the trees like red rivers. Smoke painted the sky black. Ray Carter ran through the firestorm, his eyes stinging, heart pounding above him. Council drones circled like vultures, dropping explosives into the forest below him. The ground shook like something was waking up beneath the roots. And all around him, the jungle screamed not in pain, but in rage. Ray reached a cliff and looked down into a massive crater. At the center, hidden for centuries, was the core, a structure made of stone, vines, and metal, alive but sleeping. This was the heart of the jungle's mind, and now it was waking. Ray climbed down, coughing through the smoke. The deeper he went, the quieter it got. No drones, no fire, just stillness. When he touched the ground, everything stopped. Even the jungle held its breath. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the core. It was warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then a voice entered his mind, not from outside, but from within. "We have seen your kind," it said. "We remember the wars, the fire, the fear, but we also remember something else." The core glowed, and suddenly Ray wasn't standing on the planet anymore. He was floating in a memory. The jungle was showing him what it had seen, what it had learned. He saw Earth, not its machines or cities, but moments. A child giving food to a stranger. A woman rebuilding a town after war. A man standing between two armies holding only a flag of peace. The jungle whispered, "You are not perfect, but you are different." Then the memory shifted. Ray saw something else, a cage. A black cube floating in space, ancient and forgotten. Inside it, something moved. Something. "Wrong," the jungle said. "They found it before us. They tried to control it. They gave it to us. We buried it. But now the council has awakened it again." Ray opened his eyes, sweat pouring down his face. He realized the truth. The jungle wasn't the monster. The monster was something far older. Something locked inside the core, and the council wanted to use it again. Ray screamed into his communicator. "Earth Command, if you can hear me. Don't trust the council. They've unleashed something ancient, something that can think. Copy. Control. This planet is holding it back, but it won't for long." Suddenly, the ground below the core cracked. The jungle shook violently. A black mist poured out like smoke, but it didn't rise. It crawled. Shapes formed inside it, faces, creatures, memories. It was feeding on thoughts, on fear, on Ray. He stepped back. But the voice came again, louder this time. "It does not want peace. It wants to be believed. Because belief gives it power." Ray understood. The creature was an idea, a living force that becomes real through fear. The more afraid you are, the more powerful it becomes. He felt his heart racing. He saw flashes of his past, his worst memories. A burning base, his lost team, the faces of those he couldn't save. The mist began shaping into those faces, whispering his name. Ray fell to his knees, but then he remembered something. The jungle's earlier message. It becomes what you fear, but only if you believe it's real. He stood up, closed his eyes, and whispered, "It's not real. It's not me. You're not stronger than my hope." The mist screamed and pulled back like fire touching ice. It couldn't hold its shape. Ray opened his eyes and saw the core shining bright gold. The jungle had heard him. Suddenly, a signal pinged in his communicator. "Commander Carter, this is Earthfleet. Do you copy?" Ray smiled. "I copy," he said, "but we have a new mission. We're not just saving ourselves. We're saving the galaxy from an idea that feeds on fear. The voice from Earth replied, "Give us the target." Ray looked up. The mist had risen into the sky, forming a black storm, and within it, something old and godlike opened its eyes. Ray raised his hand and said, "There. Right there." The jungle roared, the fleet descended, and the final battle had begun. The sky over Xylan 9 was no longer blue. It had turned black. A swirling storm of shadow and smoke rose from the jungle. And within that storm, something ancient had opened its eyes. Commander Ray Carter stood near the core, blood on his face, ash in his lungs. Behind him, the jungle moved like a wounded beast, still alive, still fighting. But in the sky above, something brighter had arrived, the human fleet. Dozens of Earthships pierced the clouds, sleek and silver, each one armed with weapons born from centuries of war and survival. Ray looked up and smiled. "We're late," said a voice in his com. It was Captain Madi Wren, leader of Earth's outer defense fleet. "Better late than dead," Ray replied. But this was no ordinary rescue mission. The fleet hadn't just come to pull Ray out. They came because Earth had seen what was at stake. Ray uploaded his data, the jungle's memory, the Council's lies, the black entity feeding on belief and fear. When Earth saw it all, there was only one answer: fight back. As the mist rose into the air like a storm god, it sent out pulses of energy. Ships around it began to shake. Crew members screamed as hallucinations crept into their minds. The entity was attacking thought, not metal. It didn't need guns. It needed fear. But this time, it had made a mistake. It had challenged the one species that fights harder when it's afraid. Captain Madi stood tall on her bridge, her voice steady. "All units, switch to manual targeting. Disable AI visual feeds. Do not let it show you what you fear." Pilots across the fleet closed their eyes. They flew by radar, by instinct, by trust. No fear, just focus. Ray watched from below as missiles streaked through the sky, hitting the mist. The entity screamed, the sky shaking with sound. But it didn't fall. It changed. From the mist, a new shape emerged. Tall, winged, with 1,000 eyes and a voice like thunder. It wasn't real, but it looked real, because it had stolen every nightmare ever imagined by human minds. It became humanity's monster, a mirror of our darkest myths. A god made of everything we've ever feared. But humans didn't run. They charged. Ray heard the roar of engines behind him. A ground squad had landed, Marines in heavy suits, plasma rifles ready. They set up shields around the core, protecting the jungle's mind. Even now, the jungle was trying to hold back the creature, trying to protect Ray, trying to protect humanity. The soldiers fought with grit, not perfection. They missed shots. They got injured. They yelled and swore and bled. But they kept moving forward, because that's what humans do. The mist tried to invade their thoughts. It showed them dead loved ones, burning cities, and endless silence. But Earth had trained them for this, not just in weapons, but in resilience. Fear came, yes, always. But they didn't bow to it. They used it. Ray stood at the center of the chaos, his mind connected with the core. The jungle showed him one final image, a seed, floating in space, carrying the memory of this planet, a gift for Earth. But the jungle also gave him a warning. If you let fear guide your future, this monster will return. Not here, not now, but in your cities, your children, your skies. Ray understood. This wasn't just a war to win. It was a lesson to learn. He gave the order. Target the storm center. Don't destroy it. Seal it. Using gravity weapons and plasma webs, the fleet wrapped the creature's form in energy. Instead of killing it, they contained it. Like locking an idea in a box, they didn't feed it more fear. They starved it of attention. The creature roared, twisting in pain, shrinking into itself, until the sky went silent and the black storm vanished. Just clouds, just rain, just breath. The jungle sighed. The battle was over, for now. Ray sat down by the core, exhausted. The fleet above called out, "We have visual. Commander Carter, are you all right?" He looked up and said, "I think we passed the test." But he wasn't smiling, because deep inside, he knew one truth. The real war is not on planets or with monsters. The real war is inside every being that learns to fear, and what matters most is what we do after we survive. The fires had died, the sky was calm, but the galaxy was watching on the quiet surface of Xylan 9. Commander Ray Carter stood among broken machines and glowing roots. Soldiers stood beside him, injured but alive. Above them, Earth's fleet floated like steel angels in the sky. Beyond them, Council ships hovered in silence, not firing, not retreating, just waiting. A message had been sent across the stars, not through code, not through signal, but through action. And now, everyone wanted to know what came next. Ray looked at the heart of the jungle, the core. It no longer pulsed with anger or warning. Now it pulsed with something else, something new, choice. The jungle had watched humanity fight, bleed, sacrifice, and rise again. But more than that, it had watched them change. They had not destroyed the enemy. They had contained it, controlled it without becoming like it. The jungle was not a monster, not a god, not a machine. It was a mirror, and now, that mirror reflected something the galaxy hadn't seen before. Hope, as Ray touched the core for the final time. His mind connected fully, not through fear, but through trust. He was no longer just human. He was the first bridge between Earth and a living world. Images flooded into his thoughts, the jungle's history, its pain, its memory, its failures, and its hunger to grow, not in roots, but in understanding. It spoke without voice. You are not perfect, but you learn. You fall, but you rise. We have seen the Council lie, erase, destroy. But you remember. Ray opened his eyes. The core began to change. Its roots unwrapped from the earth, reaching toward the sky. They didn't spread to conquer. They reached to connect. A signal burst across the stars. Not a weapon, but an invitation. A message written not in language, but in memory. The jungle had chosen humanity above. The Council ships reacted. They launched probes, activated scanners, prepared for war. But they were already too late. Because something new was happening. Ray Carter's body fell to the ground, still and lifeless, but his mind was somewhere else, inside the core, inside the jungle. His thoughts fused with the ancient system, and something impossible happened. The jungle became human, for the first time in galactic history. An organic world thought like Earth. It saw pain and chose compassion. It saw fear and chose courage. It saw silence and chose voice. The Council panicked. They sent a warning to their member worlds. Xylan 9 has evolved, they said. It has merged with the human. But others didn't fear. They watched, they waited, and slowly they listened. Back on Earth, cities paused. Children looked to the sky and felt something new. Not danger, but a whisper. The jungle had sent seeds across the galaxy, each one carrying a message, a memory of what happened here, of the day when a soldier spoke to a planet, and the planet answered. It wasn't the jungle versus humanity. It never was. It was the jungle becoming humanity, and humanity becoming something more. Ray's voice echoed through the stars, not through words, but through feeling. We are not the virus. We are not the threat. We are the story, and we have only just begun. The Council could choose war, but now the jungle could speak, and so could Earth. And they were not speaking in fear anymore. They were speaking in truth. The galaxy had changed forever.